You're listening to a guy who, by the age of 6, liberated the treasure of Tarman from the Minotaur. By 7, I thoroughly made my rampage through the big city. At 8 years old, I joined up with a military platoon to stop an alien invasion. At 9, I showed Dr. Wily the light for the second time. After the dawn of the 90s, my dreams began to run in 16-bit. I was a 21st century digital boy with Pac-Man fever. A restless spirit who would go on to take part in the first Mortal Kombat tournament.
Get over here!
Decades passed and my interest in video games was wavering. Until some friends of mine pulled me out of a near retirement to help defend against the Covenant and later the Locust Horde. I may be a bit rusty at it all. Having a kid will do that to you, but I remember every bit of it. Every quest, every mini-boss. I've collected a lot of coins in my time. Rings too, and I've seen a lot of gems. So I made this list to celebrate some of those that may have gone unnoticed. Being honest, up front, you've most likely seen my number 5 on a list or two. Usually with the word worst in the title. One person's garbage is another's treasure, I guess. Some have damned it to hell. I remember the game being a little glitchy from navigation to boss battles. But challenging and rewarding all the same. Just as every game should be. This overhead shooter starring the creepy and kooky bald fat man from the Addams Family may have retroactively been made just for me. And I am more than okay with that. Even though I occasionally dressed up as the character for Halloween, number 4 was still the most wish fulfillment I had at 12 years old. US Gold made just about all my gamma-rated dreams come true with this action platformer that I played on the Sega Genesis.
Rock Smash!
It was long overdue, to be honest. I had rented that lame NES X-Men game multiple times. I dropped more than my fair share of tokens into both Superman and the Avengers cabinet video games in the arcades for years at that point. An Incredible Hulk video game is what I wanted more than life itself. Seeing it advertised in comic books was like a surge of gamma radiation. Fighting hordes of henchmen to be able to duke it out with Absorbing Man, the Rhino, Abomination, Tyrannus, and then the leader, it was simple, and it made me feel incredible.
Rock Smash!
Arcades are all but extinct now, but they should never be forgotten. Dave & Buster's doesn't count. Going to one was for many like a religious experience. One that would begin with blinking lights, and a mixture of different sound effects unified to strike a spectacular attack on the senses. And that was just from opening the door. If you were lucky, you would see a miracle or two, a defeated game, a high score. On and into my angst-ridden teens, the feeling I got from the arcades was something I held on to, sometimes for dear life. In the days where I was trying the ties that bound me to my father, if he said, "Let's go to Aladdin's castle," even at my most rotten, I wouldn't refuse. And for that, I consider myself lucky. Because it was there that we stumbled upon Lucky and Wild. The first-person racing shooter, developed by Namco for the arcades in 1993, took inspiration from Tango and Cash, a movie about an uneasy alliance between two cops. One straight-laced, the other more of a devil-may-care kind of character. It allowed up to 2 gamers to play. One would steer, the other, usually me, would shoot. Somewhere there between the speeding cars, bullets, pink cats, the criminals and the cash. My old man and I found our way. Together. No matter what kind of trouble I caused, no matter what was going on, we always went back to that game. Whenever we could. The last time we did, I kept some of that old arcade magic for myself. I never had a TurboGrafx 16. I never wanted a TurboGrafx 16. Did I know what it was? Yes. It was impossible not to. Ads for it were plastered all over the comics I had been reading. But no, I didn't want one. Until I played Splatterhouse 2 on the Sega Genesis in 1992. It was only then I realized what I'd been missing out on. A game that would appeal to my love of slashers, scary stories, and horror in general. Namco's beat-em-up horror survival game was overflowing, with all sorts of creeps, monsters, demons, and Easter eggs to scary movies I'd been exposed to at a young age. It was wall-to-wall fun, wall-to-wall blood, and at the center of it all was
The Terror Mask.
which would grant the main character of the game the power he needed to rescue his girlfriend. Either you played Splatterhouse or you were too chicken shit and called it repetitive. But it was no more repetitive than Super Mario. The thrill of the game was never lost on me. Or forgotten. In 2010, Namco released the next generation remake of Splatterhouse. And once again it had detractors. And yet again I disagreed. Weird kids make weird adults, I guess. Cause that damn game, was the most fun I had playing one alone. Due largely to the fact that legendary voice actor Jim Cummings lent his voice to the Terror Mask. If you've ever wondered what Tigger would sound like cursing up a storm, find this remake.
It's fun as hell.
Before cosplay was a thing, video games allowed fans to be whatever we wanted to be. No matter how far out there. If you wanted to be a knight, Ghosts and Goblins made your dreams come true. And a few frustrated nightmares too. If you wanted to be a hockey mask wearing maniac, the most healthy way to do it was to play Splatterhouse. If you wondered what it was like to drive a tank in some war, Abrams' battle tank for DOS had you covered. So on and so forth, it was like that. For any fantasy someone had, a video game gave you a taste of it. But there was only one game you would plug in to fulfill a multitude of fantasy. Quite possibly the coolest game of its generation. It was a simple story, like all the great ones are.
The latest and greatest VR arcade game, Wildside, is taking kids hostage. It's going to take someone too tough to beat to end this madness. And that someone goes by the name of Kid Chameleon.
Following the side-scrolling concept made popular by Super Mario, and turning it up to 11, this game was pretty challenging for its time, with a barrage of bad guys and unsafe surfaces. It was challenging, but it could be defeated. You just needed the right power-up for the right job. With 9 power-ups placed sporadically throughout the levels. Part of the fun was unleashing them to see if they would offer a helpful workaround. While researching this game for this video, it occurred to me that some people might have missed that. Because I saw a lot of modern video game critics taking cheap shots at this game.
It's too hard to control, blah blah blah.
Pansies.
That's what games were like in the 90s. That just says to me they wouldn't last one round against heavy metal. Some will say I've been bitten by the nostalgia bug. But I disagree on the grounds that this isn't something I'm just romanticizing from the past. I've carried it with me. I know all of its flaws and I've beaten it over and over again over the years. And I even went as Maniacs for Halloween one year. It was one of the first times I wore my fandom on my sleeve. Sure, that could be considered a misstep. And yeah, I had to spend most of that night explaining to everyone that I wasn't this bitch. A lesser fan may have been discouraged by this. I'm surprised I wasn't. It was their hang-up, not mine, and it was totally worth it. As Sega is no longer making systems, it's my hope that Kid Chameleon can find new life on the Intellivision Amico. The Intellivision was my very first system, and I'm hoping the Amico will be my daughter's first system. I would like nothing more than for that game and that system to be a generational thing.